citizens.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicaeye.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
To fight crime and violence in your country, your government has invested over $9.7 billion into national security systems. This includes the construction and renovation of dozens of police stations, the acquisition of critical security equipment such as patrol vessels and police vehicles, the recruitment and training of more police officers, and the build-out of the Jamaica Defence Force. Your government is investing in your safety. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica is changing right before our very eyes. Across the island, billions are being invested into our road networks, from farm and community roads to major roads and highways. Dozens of communities across the length and breadth of Jamaica are receiving access to reliable potable water for the very first time. And thousands of Jamaicans have become homeowners thanks to the historic shifts in policies of the National Housing Trust, making it easier for Jamaicans to receive funding. Not to mention the record number of houses being built. Never dreamed you would own a home? No matter your circumstance, home ownership is possible for you, thanks to the government's new social housing program specially designed to meet the needs of poor Jamaicans at no cost to them. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Your government is empowering you through education, training, and development. That is why we have removed all fees for every Jamaican accessing training through the Heart NSTA Trust. So, whatever you desire training in, food and hospitality, beauty and cosmetology, housekeeping and hotel management, welding, carpentry, masonry, or any of the dozens of programs Heart offers, you can enroll completely free and change your life. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
What if I told you that you own thousands of acres of land, more than 100 companies with over 100,000 employees and billions in the bank? Well, I have news for you. You do. Jamaica belongs to you, and you need expert protection to safeguard those assets for your future, your children, and your children's children. And you already have it. A key protector is our Auditor General, whose role is outlined by the biggest, baddest law in all the land, the Constitution. The Auditor General's main job is to examine the financial reports of all public entities to ensure that they are accurate and that public funds are used appropriately and effectively to deliver public goods and services without waste, theft, and mismanagement. Here's how it's done. A team of highly trained auditors reviews and verifies that the right amount of money is spent on only what's approved in the national budget and in accordance with the laws and policies that protect public resources. Now, the right amount of money can be spent on the right things and Jamaicans still no benefit. So the Auditor General assesses the outcome for programs and projects as well. Audit reports will also contain recommendations to improve the operations of the audited entity, and the findings are submitted to the Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, the PAC. Every year, an annual report is submitted by December 31. Both government and opposition MPs serve on the PAC, and they summon public entity managers to answer questions so that they and the public, the real owners, yes, you, can understand what went wrong and how to prevent a recurrence. What are some things that can and do go wrong? Cost and time overruns, missing financial reports, unreported losses, unauthorized spending, unsupported payments, unlawful contracting, undisclosed conflict of interest, and more. Though the AG identifies the abuse of laws and policies, the law does not empower that office to penalize or sanction, but it does empower the Financial Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. It is also the duty of other anti-corruption and law enforcement bodies to grab the button and investigate to ensure penalties are applied when appropriate. But the AG alone can't watch all. So when things don't look straight, the Minister of Finance, members of Parliament, Cabinet, public servants, and importantly, you must blow the whistle and the AG will look deeper. So this is where you come in, with 4 things you can do to strengthen those who are fighting to protect our future. Tune into PBCJ on Tuesdays for the PAC and mind your business, Jamaica. It's our belongings, but we have to move like we understand that. And next time you hear a news report about the AG, you just left it up to the media. Visit the AG's website at www.auditorgeneral.gov.jm and check out the findings yourself. Then, keep track of how the government has fixed the issue or not at www.jampja.org's accountometer. And if you're not happy with what you see, it's your job to contact your employees. It's easy when you visit the MP tracker on jampja.org. This is how we can do our part to make Jamaica land we own, Jamaica land we love, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter portal, funded by the European Union and UK Aid.
Diabetes is high glucose level in the bloodstream. In Jamaica, we have 236,200 people living with diabetes that are known. It's a chronic illness, therefore it's not curable, sad to say, but it can be controlled through proper monitoring such as dieting, exercise, medication, the checking of the glucose level, and consultation with your physician. It is our duty to give care to patients that are diabetic. Whether you're a member or non-member, you can see our consultations. We have a wide range of services that we offer to patients, such as diet plan, our diabetes education also to teach patients about diabetes, how to monitor themselves and to manage diabetes, to check their blood glucose level and how to treat themselves. At the DAG, we have our Life for a Child program that's for patients 0 to 25. What we offer to them is free insulin, free Lancet, free blood sugar machine, also education and support group for them. You can call us at 927-6774 and you can speak with Nurse Nicorine Knight. She's a clinic coordinator and she will educate you and walk you through the step of what is to be done.
Today, we can report 2 consecutive years of reduction in major crimes and murders, with a significant reduction of almost 20% in murders for 2024.
Between January 2022 and January 2025, we have reduced murders by 51%, and January 2025 had the lowest monthly murder count since September 2014.
Our efforts have also resulted in the reduction of active gangs by 50%. We continue to increase firearm seizures, and in more communities, we are experiencing less violence. We will realize our vision of Jamaica as the place of choice to live, work, do business, raise families, and retire in peace and prosperity.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
A new story is being written for all.
And other words in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Member Davis. Apologies for absence. Welcome again, everyone. I see seated in the gallery of the Parliament, most unexpectedly this morning for committee meeting. Welcome to the Mineral Heights Christian Preparatory School from Clarendon. Welcome to the Houses of Parliament. We have seated here 40 students, 4 teachers, and 15 parents. I hope you will find this committee session of Parliament to be an interesting one. It is not expected to be a long session, which if you have not had a chance to walk through the Parliament with the Marshal already, you should be able to do a wonderful tour of the Houses of Parliament immediately after. Welcome again to the Houses of Parliament. Could you ask the orderly to invite in ECJ? We're going to invite in ECJ in the interim. I would like someone to confirm the minutes of the last meeting, April 1.
Well, couple things, Madam Chair. On the agenda, it doesn't reference the minutes.
Hold on a minute. Mic's on again, please. Member Bartlett, you may turn yours on as well. I am aware it doesn't reference the minutes. I noted it a while ago reviewing the agenda. So the committee clerk typed in confirmation of minutes. It can be left to another meeting if you so desire, Member Jackson. But I said to him it didn't make sense to print over the agenda. It will be circulated electronically. To our paper copy here, we could scribble in confirmation at number 5, just before originally written matters for discussion. The minutes were in fact circulated prior. It was just left off the agenda for confirmation.
So, Madam Chair, in the context of this, I beg to move that the agenda be amended.
Correct.
To include the minutes of the last.
We have amended the agenda, so we will email the agenda out. The point, Member Jackson, was I didn't think it was practical to waste paper to print it again. So if the members would like us to print it, not a problem.
No, Madam Chair, it's just the formality.
Oh,
of
yes, absolutely.
For good order.
The agenda has been amended and is to be circulated via email in the regular course. And for good order, so noted. So the amendment to the agenda.
Madam Chair, just to suggest that we do adopt the amendment. And yes. So we do adopt the amendment, yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So for the benefit of the public, confirmation of minutes of the last meeting held on April 1st, 2025, and it has been so moved for adoption of the amendment to the agenda.
No, two things. You're speaking
the amendment to the
agenda.
agenda has been so moved and seconded.
Yes.
Now, as it relates to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting, you're open on the floor to make any statements. Member Jackson.
Yes, Madam. This minutes tabled, which was in circulation, has a number of inaccuracies. And I will go on by them page by page.
Okay, so Member Jackson,
yes,
we are going to defer the housekeeping points until after ECJ departs, and then we will take up the confirmation of the minutes, if you don't mind. I was attempting to do our
because some of the corrections in here relates to the ECJ's presence today.
So I would want to speak to the ECJ, Member Jackson, because the committee clerk would have written the minutes based on the recording of the meeting, which would also be available on YouTube. The Hansard records were not available at the time, and I believe if we are at a place where you think there are several corrections that you would like to make to the minutes, we would need the benefit of Hansard. That is most appropriate. So I would want us, if you so desire, members, to move to the discussion first with the ECJ, and then we go back and I'm asking that we pull Hansard for the purpose.
I can go with that.
So moved. Seconded. So moved by Minister Bartlett, seconded by Member Davis. To the ECJ, welcome to the Houses of Parliament. I am sure we have not had the pleasure of spending time with you in a very long time. We literally struggled to figure out when was the last time that you were invited to Parliament. And indeed, we could only rely on an old report that gave us some indication that we had some meetings in or around September 2017, and we haven't met again. With the Portmore Parish designation being a hot topic and a date set for you to really come and update or report to the committee on the 31st of May, many believed it would be practical to do an interim, and we really want to appreciate where we are with that. When we looked back at the mandate of the committee as well, I found persons asking if we were going to have more constituencies or if we would have only 63 constituencies. And I thought it would have also been a good inclusion for the ECJ to just lay out to us where we are and what are the implications, if any, and to answer questions from members of the committee so that we are at a place of good understanding. You may introduce the team as well.
Morning, Chair and members. I'm the Glasgow Brown Director of Elections. On my left is T.C. Allison. She's the Deputy Director of Elections in charge of the Information System Department. On my left is T.C. Allison, who is the Deputy Director of Elections in charge of the Information Systems Department. And on my right is Vermosky Russell. She's in charge of the GIS Department of the Electoral Office of Jamaica. I can proceed, Chair?
Yes, you may, Mr. Brown.
We were asked, or the Commission was asked, based on correspondence that we received from you, Chair, to give what we regard as a preliminary update in terms of where we are, in terms of the instruction that we got from you. And therefore, they say to the committee that our work is guided by what is required of us in Section 67 of the Constitution. The Commission, that the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, requires us to establish an interface between the Commission and the Standing Committee of Boundary. That has been done because we have received the instruction from the committee. And we, in the interim though, we have written to the Ministry of Labour, Ministry of Local Government, to so get the new boundary for the redefined St. Catherine. And
could you repeat that? Could you repeat that sentence you have written to?
The Ministry of Labour, so local government, in order to get the new boundary for St. Catherine. Because as you would appreciate, that Portmore was a part of the old St. Catherine. So therefore, there's a new boundary, the description for the new St. Catherine. And that would have to be gazetted, as is per the norm with the other parishes. So we await that aspect of it. Is that better now? Okay. We have started the work in terms of the preparation, as was instructed. To apply what is known as the GIS technology and field work. We are about to embark on the field work for the new boundary and generate the relevant maps. The ECJ guideline, as was agreed by the Commission, that it should be for boundary alignment, will guide the way we proceed going forward. Members, a key step involved the establishment of a formal procedure for reaching and recording agreements, along with the establishment of what is known as the Parish Boundary Forum, or known as the PBF, which will be chaired by a senior returning officer from the parish. That person will be appointed by me, the Director of Election. The PBF will be, as according to the guidelines, will be supported by a Parish Boundary Advisory Committee, the PBAC, which also will be chaired by a senior returning officer from the parish, appointed by me, the Director of Election. The ECJ will provide the necessary guidance and GIS technology support and electronic and paper mapping throughout the project to assist all stakeholders throughout the project. An initial meeting of the Parish Boundary Forum will be convened shortly based on the agreed structure. There's an agreed structure in the guideline in terms of the makeup of that PBF, and the Parish Boundary Advisory Committee will also be tasked to begin to conduct fieldwork, realigning the constituency boundaries, reconfiguring the electoral divisions, and also writing the constituency and polling division descriptions. That's a part of the fieldwork that needs to be done. So members, the fieldwork involves two primary objectives. First, we must investigate in the field the new St. Catherine and Portmore parish boundary. To achieve this accurately, our team will be physically walking the boundaries, accompanied by guides and key stakeholders. And secondly, it is critical that when we do that work, we capture the GPS coordinates for the new polling division boundaries within the parishes of St. Catherine and Portmore. To establish these new boundaries, it necessitates a number of changes, and these changes encompass splits and mergers for existing polling division. It also will require the renumbering and potential renaming of St. Catherine constituencies affected by the alignment. It also will require the renumbering of associated St. Catherine electoral division, followed by the renumbering of polling divisions within those affected constituencies. And it has to be agreed upon the official naming and numbering of the three designated Portmore constituencies. That will be critical in terms of naming those new three the constituencies that should remain in Portmore and the new Portmore parish. It will also, Chair, require the renumbering of those electoral divisions that now constitute part of Portmore. And finally, it will require the writing of the polling division's description for all impacted PDs to reflect the changes agreed upon. These steps, the Commission believes, will ensure the new electoral map is accurately defined and implemented both geographically and administratively. A part of the process, Chair and members, is that both political parties will be required, both major political parties will be required to submit written proposal. Hopefully, an agreement can be reached by all members of the Parish Boundary Advisory Committee. In a case, though, where no agreement by the Parish Boundary Advisory Committee, an established procedure for accepting agreement be with a consultation between the nominated commissioners and the Director of Election, followed after that consultation, that is assuming that no agreement is arrived at the PBAC. Following that, the preparation of final draft of realignment for submission to the PBF for signing. MPs and constituency caretakers, ROs, need to sign off on the new constituency boundaries realignment and the electoral divisions, and also the PD numbering. And this agreement, based on the guideline that we have in place and as agreed by the Commission, that both general secretaries of both parties, both major political parties, will have to sign too. These agreement or disagreement would then be submitted to the ECJ, and if accepted without any change by the Commission, then we'll move forward in preparing a report that will then be submitted back to you, Chair, as the Chairman to the Boundaries Committee of Parliament. An approval of this committee, the next step will be then lead to the gazetting of the new electoral boundaries, the electoral division, the PDs, and the constituency boundaries. Once this part is agreed to, then the acceptance of the Parliament would then be sought through this committee. And then we'll proceed based on that communication that will come back from the Parliament. Then the ECJ will then proceed afterwards in terms of doing the final step of the arrangement, and that is to communicate. It is our responsibility to communicate the effective date of the realignment, after which the voters list data set will be updated to reflect the new information, the new constituencies, the new electoral division and polling division. So that it is at that stage, then we will begin to print the list. And finally, that list will be published to all the constituencies in the parishes of St. Catherine, and by extension that of the Portmore parish. And then Portmore will be officially, based on the electoral aspect of it, then be established for the electoral, guided by the electoral process. This, Chairman, is in summary, is where we are. This is just to update the committee in terms of the approach that will be taken.
That was a very detailed presentation, Mr. Brown. I must ask a question before I go to Member Warmington. Do you have a copy of the Act as gazetted and passed, establishing the parish of Portmore?
I did
a
receive
copy is here with you?
I did receive, but I don't have a copy. I did receive the copy from Parliament,
not here with you.
But I don't have a copy right now.
I need to just grab. Please share. I wanted to appreciate, gazetted on the 12th day of March 2025, whether or not the area designated in the schedule, if you go to page 3, section 5, which continues into, and let me deal with this part first because it is very detailed, saying that it's starting at the point where St. Catherine and St. Andrew parish boundary meets at the Nelson Mandela Highway, easternly along the Fresh River, southeasternly. So when you read out exactly which, as a member of Parliament, I am very clear each PD is not described by a map alone per se, but written the indication and direction as to a description of what formulates both the parish boundary, and you went a lot further than we were hoping to go today. For sure, I was only at parish boundary, but how you would now get into the boundary of the constituencies in St. Catherine, boundaries of the constituencies in Portmore as a parish, and then even deeper into the PDs, which I know you would have established boundaries by PD. So I was at more the higher level of the boundaries of Portmore as a parish, which would equally establish the boundaries of St. Catherine as the parish remains, whether or not this gazetted designation is now in effect.
She's asking if the gazetted description is now in effect.
So which in effect as a parish?
As a parish, but not electoral.
Yeah, the answer, as I understand it, Chair, is that as a parish, yes, the boundary is in effect, but not necessarily in effect in terms of the electoral boundaries. But as a parish, yes. So that's why we need to do the field work to ensure that based on what is there as per the parish in terms of the electoral side of it, that's why we need to do the field work, Chair. That's my understanding.
Next member. Member Wilmington.
To you, Chairman. Mr. Director, you mentioned quite a few times the Parish Boundary Advisory Committee.
Right.
So that is one committee that will deal with the St. Catherine and the Portmore issue. One committee, is that so?
The guideline do call for each parish. It refers to a parish boundary. So since it impacts on both parishes, the new Portmore parish and the St. Catherine parish, the thinking is that we'll establish two, because that's what the guideline says.
All right, because I heard you mention committee, not committees.
Fair
that's
enough.
why I asked.
Yeah, right.
All right, thank you.
Two separate.
Thank you. I'm happy that...
Member Hilton. What did he do?
Chair, thank you. Let me, so is it contemplated, you mentioned two bodies. One was the Parish Boundary Forum and the Parish Boundary Advisory Committee.
Right.
We have just clarified that it is intended that there be two Parish Boundary Advisory Committees, one for each parish. Is that the same being contemplated for the Parish Boundary Forum? The Parish Boundary Forum, the PDF, what you call it,
right.
PBF.
Right, you'd have two, one PBF for Portmore, one PBF for St. Catherine, one
right.
PBSE for Portmore, one for PBSE for St. Catherine.
All right, so the question then was then asked by the chair about the boundary that has been gazetted and whether that was in effect. She, as a boundary, she asked, the chair asked you whether the boundaries as gazetted was now in effect. And I wasn't clear about the answer to that.
Well, from what is clear is that what is gazetted is a parish boundary.
Yeah.
So we are saying, certainly from the commission, that we need to look at it relates to the electoral boundaries. That is what we need to, and that they need to be gazetted after.
Right. So the question of satisfying section, this procedure and this process is for the purpose of satisfying section 67 of the Constitution.
As per constituency boundaries, electoral boundaries, yes.
And the PDs within that, the polling divisions within that?
Right. We'll be looking at it in a comprehensive way. We're looking at the constituency boundaries, then the electoral division boundaries, and also the PD boundaries.
And the determination, what I'm trying to get from you is that the determination, or that the process itself, the procedure, will have implication for that question that was posed about whether that is a settled matter. The question was whether the gazetted thing was in effect.
The member?
Yes, as a parish.
No, as a parish it is. Yes. So because in this committee, all of us seated here, as members of parliament, we have a very good appreciation of the fact that our constituencies and ultimately the parish is delineated, is documented, is written by a description, road by road, sometimes even a landmark is used, or a river is used to generate in the mind of people in the electoral office, in our voters' minds, exactly where their constituency starts, where it ends. I have a peculiar situation where on Harbour Drive, my constituency starts at 21, where the pink house is in one constituency and the house next door is in another. And persons who are listening on would not necessarily appreciate that. So the question that is being reiterated by Member Hilton when the Parliament passes what establishes Portmore as a parish, and it is documented in words that these are the established boundaries of the parish, whether or not that is now written in stone, and from there on, what you're doing is taking it from the parishes established now in stone and working your way through the details of how this will work electorally with both major political parties through your committees. So that's what Member Hilton is wanting to also confirm, that these delineations in schedule at page 3 in section 5 is written in stone and final.
Yeah. And I'm saying that that's the question. And so my appreciation is that the arguments that are being made and will be made in the courts is that this exercise that you just outlined should have been an exercise or complementing, if it is seen fit. I'm not arguing about the appropriateness or not of what has already been done. The question is as to the legal effect of that. That's a separate question. Well, that's your view. That's your view. That's my view. So, but please, no, that's your view. Yeah, no. So, yeah. So, I repeat my question. I think, therefore, that the question about its effect, its legal effect, is really not a question for you to settle.
Right. We are not here to answer that aspect of it. I think from a commission, we are more concentrating on, as is our remit,
you can't opine on that.
constituency boundaries. That's where our remit is. And
we are satisfied.
Quite correct. The Attorney General made it very clear to us at the last meeting that the establishment of the parish is the purview of the Parliament, which has been done. The establishment now of the various constituency boundaries would be in consultation with the relevant stakeholders and would come back to us here at the Boundaries Committee for further discussion. Right. So we are very clear in that regard. Member Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I listened very carefully, Mr. Director, of your update. And you are proposing these constituency, divisional, and polling division, parish council division and polling division boundaries in the context of a parish boundary. It was said that as of now, that act that was passed and gazetted is not in effect by virtue of the court's ruling that it cannot, one step that was outlined is for the minister to set the designated date for the act to come in effect. That has not been done. So the law does not exist for all practical purposes. I just wanted to be clear that you are mindful that such an act is not in effect.
You may go ahead, Member Mr. Brown. And for me, Member Jackson, yes, I am very clear because the first sheet of the act says the date notified by the minister bringing the act into operation. And it is so highlighted here.
If I may, that said and acknowledged, Mr. Director, the exercise that you are going through with all the recommendations that you set out that would ultimately come to the Parliament through this committee represents mere proposal in the context that a parish does not exist.
Member, I wouldn't be able to agree with you there as
No,
chair.
no.
And I'll tell you why.
Madam Chair,
because
Madam
this,
Chair,
this is already,
Madam Chair,
this is already law.
Madam Chair.
And Mr. Brown, may I speak?
No,
member?
but I wasn't completed. Could you allow
so
me?
So that is not a question we can ask,
But
Mr.
Madam
Brown.
Chair, why can't I be allowed to ask my question?
Mr.
You
Brown,
can differ.
No, Mr. Brown is not in a position.
But let him determine that. He's here to answer.
No, he actually answered that question before.
No, but I want the clarification from him. So can't I be granted that privilege?
Well, the AG answered us last meeting, member.
Madam Chair, is this a committee of all members?
Hold on a moment. Mr. Jackson, most inappropriate member Jackson. So member Jackson, Mr. Brown answered that question for you before. He cannot speak to anything legally as it relates to the Act of Parliament. That is not his remit. That is not the purpose. No, hold on, Mr. Jackson. I'm going to turn your mic on again. No, you can't tell the man if he's making sense or not. Member, no, member, not appropriate. Member. Allow Mr. Jackson. So, Mr. Jackson, you can ask your question. However, I caution you, Mr. Jackson, Member Jackson, that we have already established, both in the last meeting and earlier today in this current meeting, that it is not Mr. Brown's remit to speak to anything as it relates to legal designation about anything to do with the parish, anything to do with the parish. It is a parliamentary procedure passed in Parliament, and this is where the discussion would have to be only in Parliament. When Mr. Brown and the ECJ comes back to us, it will be a discussion about boundaries, which is the remit of the committee. And I would say to you, Mr. Brown, since Mr. Jackson is feeling so aggrieved, remind you, it is not your remit to speak as it relates to the legal document in respect of the establishment of the parish.
Can I speak now, Madam Chair?
Member Jackson and then Member Hilton.
Okay, thank you. You know, Madam Chair, before I go into the crux of my question, these committees of Parliament, for all the years that I've been here, provides a forum for members of Parliament to seek and obtain clarification on issues from members who appear before here. So it is the privilege accorded a member to ask any question for their own clarification. A question from a member does not constitute a decision of the committee. And I was never purporting that to be the case. I was proceeding to ask of the executive, of the director of election, if it's his understanding, he can answer yes or no. And as often the case, if it is not his remit to speak to certain issues which have a legal nature, the competence of the officer allows him to so answer. And he ought not to be tried to be guided in one direction or the other,
Thank you, Member
have
Jackson.
now attempted to do.
No, Member Jackson, thank you.
And I take offense to that, Madam Chair.
Turn your mic on, Mr. Brown.
Just that implied earlier on, and I said earlier on, that our understanding of our assignment is guided by what the rules of the Constitution in 67. And therefore, we won't be making any comment as it relates to the parish boundary, when the legality of it. What we are being asked to do is to concentrate on the electoral side of what is required. And that's where our remit is, and that's where our focus is as a commission.
Thank you very much.
Member Hilton and then Member Bartlett.
So, Madam Chair, appropriate to what has now been clearly established, I would just say that in respect of your own injunction, that the legality of what has been done is not an appropriate question for the director. I am in total agreement with, and therefore the effect, to ask a question about the effect of what has been done is really not in his remit either. What I will ask, though, is whether, Director, the procedures that you have just outlined.
Correction, Member Hilton. The effect as it relates to the words that are documenting, because it will flow in terms of the work he will be doing, or the ECJ, along with our joint parties do in the committees to come. So the question I'm asking is not the effective date of the act or anything. I'm asking about the effect of the written wording of the establishment of the spaces. That's really what I'm asking about. So that's all I'm asking. Yeah, because no matter what, this is where he would take the information to guide the process going forward.
Fine.
So just for clarity.
So I understand it in the sense of guiding the work to be done. But when you ask for effect, you talk about the legal effect. And I'm saying that is, we agree that is not the province or the remit of the director. I think we have agreed on that. And I was moving on now to say, to ask the director, you have outlined a series of procedures, some of it layered. And my question to you is, do you have a sense at this juncture about what sort of timeline you're working with?
Well, you'll agree with member that there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done. We have not yet arrived, we have not finalized a timeline as such. We're working on those. As soon as those timelines are available, certainly when we come back on the 31st of May, we'll be able to provide the committee with a better indication of the timeline. But we are working on it. We have not agreed upon them yet. And therefore, we are not able to definitely say the timeline.
Okay.
One moment for legal. One moment. the last question, I'm not sure, Member Hilton is the one who asked that question, in terms of whether or not ECJ had any appreciation for a sort of timeline when you would be reporting to the committee. I did not hear when. How long? How much time? Please repeat the question, Member Hilton.
The question I asked was whether there was, at this early stage, any appreciation of the timeline it will take for to complete a process. That's the question I asked.
And what was the response?
Say, Chair, that the members would agree that it's a considerable amount of work. And we have just started doing our work. We are not yet agreed upon the timeline. Certainly when we come back on the 31st of May, we'll be able to provide a more definite timeline when the process will be completed.
Okay. Thank you for that response. I would want to ask members that we move, unless you have any other matters for discussion, to release the ECJ. I'm being very careful because our discussions for the committee are limited to Standing Order Section 77.7, the depth of the discussion. Our discussion on parish boundary is not our remit. It is ultimately when you get back to us in respect of the constituency boundary. And I realize because of it, we have been veering to a general discussion which is useful for the public, but not necessarily our remit. And so we would like to thank you. Go member.
Yes. I was trying to process what you said about the remit of the committee. And the name of the committee is the... sorry. Okay. No, I clarified that. But my other question I have to ask you, before you dismiss the ECJ, when we last met on April 1st, the decision of the committee was for an update on or before the 31st of May. And it so happens that that update is taking place today. Today, before. Against that background, that we now have an update since our last meeting, does the 31st still hold? Because we do, no, she said, there was mention just now about the first, they return on the 31st. My question is, does, in light of today's update, does meeting again on the 3rd, they having a further update by the 31st is necessary? Because we now have an update.
Wonderful question, Member Jackson. So, Member Jackson, when we looked at our schedule of potential dates to have any discussions at all, plus wanting to at least appreciate what is this process, we decided that it would be a good thing based on the available dates, which took us all the way into May itself, to at least have a preliminary understanding of where they were going. The understanding I certainly got from the meeting was by the time they come to give us a report May 31st, it would be basically final. And I think we benefited substantially from the discussion today because you literally opened my own eyes with detailing the process in the way that you did. I believe the committee benefited from it. And looking back at the records when members asked us for minutes of the old meetings that we had, updates of what we had in terms of discourse, it was so long ago that we couldn't even find minutes. We finally found one report which helped to guide us that we had a Boundaries Committee meeting somewhere in 2017. That is, let me calculate, it is almost 8 years ago. And so I believed, as chair, and with the ability for our committee to vote and to ratify, it was important to just have an interim discussion. So we appreciate more so especially with a new parish coming on the books, exactly what was the implication there, and prepare us for what is to come. In my estimation, especially for me, I benefited significantly from this process. The report to come to us May 31st, Member Jackson, we believe would have been something that is much closer to final. Listening to you this morning, I don't know that that will be the case, because I now have a clearer sense that it's not only up to you, it is going to be up to the meetings and the various stakeholders having their discussions and working out the issues. So even in asking the timeline that you would be able to get back to us, I believe we should leave the 31st date, but you can always get in touch with us. We can always reach out to you if you have any further update, anything critical to update us on in the Parliament. The opportunity allows. Member Jackson, it wasn't a mandate to haul the ECJ to the Parliament, really. It is to say, give us an idea what is happening, where you are, because we really had no clue. We really have no appreciation for where we were in the process. And I'm grateful for the way you outlined the process and gave us more of a sense of where we are in that process and what is to come. Hold on, Member Jack. From before?
Yeah, your summary, Madam Chair, is very much in order. As I said, in light of today's update, the 31st would become a fluid date.
Yes, it would be. Even today, Member Jackson was a fluid date because it was the only date we could get when we checked the schedule all the way back into May. So we figured even if we weren't far ahead, it would have been good to just give us a sense as to what is the process, where we are. And what the committee clerk will do is just continue to be in dialogue on behalf of the committee in terms of when they're ready for the next step. And once they're at a better place, then we now would communicate afterwards to the committee to say they can meet on the 30th, on the 15th. Are we then available? If we are also available, then we would schedule a meeting at that time, as we did for this session.
I have no difficulty with that, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, Member.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, do we have your attention?
Thank you, Member.
Madam Chair, it would seem to me that the committee shouldn't be constrained in terms of its ability to have periodic and regular updates as we lead up to the 31st of May as the outer date that we have set for the full return, so to speak, with details of the determination of boundaries and so on for the consideration of this committee. It is my view that we should remain flexible in terms of our own abilities to have these periodic updates, because the nature of this exercise is impatient of, an elongated process. It is important for the people of the parish of Portmore to, it's not proposed, it is a parish.
No, it's not a parish.
It is a parish. The detail, the act said the date that the minister indicated. Exactly. So the whole point is, however, that for us as a committee, we are concerned about a timeline because we are within an electoral cycle. And it is important that the representation of the people in the area is preserved and secured. And therefore, Madam Chair, with respect, I would ask that we leave ourselves free to have periodic updates within the timeline that we've established so that the process can go as expeditiously and efficiently as possible. May it please you.
Chairman, I thought that your guidance was quite sufficient, because what I understand you to be saying is that in the interim, having laid out a process that seemed very involved, complex, that you'd ask the clerk on our behalf to monitor and to then say when they have done a body of work that they'd want to present. My concern is, given it may be counterproductive to what the member is asking now, because given the work that they have to do, it's very clear, to be bringing them before the committee periodically to say, where are you? If it doesn't appear to be badgering, it certainly is interfering with, to my mind, the process and their focus on trying to get to the work done. So I really would like, look, it is clear the committee can mandate anything it wants to do. I'm simply saying, if we talk about efficiency of operation and the perception of what it is we are doing here, then we may want to modulate how we exercise those authority.
Thank you, Member Hilton. Member Hilton, I do not believe for a moment the member was suggesting any inefficient process. We are literally, myself included, sometimes badgered because we are too much for efficient use of time and resources. And we do not ever believe in calling on agencies, civil servants, to come to Parliament unnecessarily. We were mindful, even in terms of the public discourse coming out of our initial meeting, that it was important for us to have an appreciation of where we are and not to necessarily sit down for a final report. If you are in a position that you would want to do an interim update, even in writing, we welcome it, because we are able to read it and not necessarily ask that you come to sit in front of us to have that discourse. That is a possibility and a perfect one. If you have no reservation, what you read in terms of your summary this morning, we would love for you to share it so it becomes an easy part of our record to check against Hansard. And I would also, well, we have now received the copy of Hansard for the last meeting. It is unofficial still, so it is to be reviewed. So I'm asking the Hansard supervisor at Parliament, along with the clerk of the committee, to just review Hansard and the records along with the draft minutes and do their final updates so that the next copy shared with us is a final copy. And to me, would be closer to not necessarily needing any corrections. If the members of the committee are so minded, because it may well be a laborious process for us to go through and check against Hansard based on what I'm seeing here. So this Member Jackson is the Hansard sheets.
Madam Chair, what you have just said, I fully accept, and in that regard, I think we can formally perhaps withdraw the minutes.
We would hold. We would not do any confirmation. So what I'd ask is that we withdraw the amendment to the agenda and leave it as it initially was. No confirmation of minutes as it relates to the meeting of April 1, 2025.
No, Madam Chair, and I think probably my colleague, House Leader, will agree. Just for proper procedure, we ought to have minutes.
I don't know that we could withdraw something that we didn't move to accept. That's
no, it
a
was
concern.
tabled. It was tabled.
So what we would do is defer, if that works for you. Defer is a better. We would defer.
I think for the benefit of the House, it probably will be a bit tidier if they just resubmit with the benefit of answer that they will now have.
No, it will be resubmitted, Member Jackson.
What is here.
What I'm saying is that the words would be officially that we are deferring.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
All right.
think in substance we're in agreement.
Yes, because when we say withdraw, it would be in respect of something that we accepted, which we had not yet accepted.
Fine.
Thank you, Member.
Chair, with your permission, I would just like to reiterate the very important point that we should enable the committee to feel that the flexibility exists for us. Yes. The reason being, I wouldn't like a meeting is called and there is a response that you're badgering. And I want that point to be very clearly made, that the intention to have periodic updates to enable us to move this process as quickly and efficiently as possible is not about badgering. It's not trying to impose any strictures either on the EOJ in the context of how we have operated over time. But it is critical, I think, that this particular process be moved with expedition, but with absolute efficiency, because the democratic process requires it, and the right of the people of Portmore demands it. May it please you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm finished now. I'm finished. You have a different point to make, Member Hilton, or you want to reiterate again?
I want to amplify a point which is made, which is efficiency is not the only and cannot be the only consideration. Accuracy and compliance with the guidance that is given. We have to make sure that what is done is procedurally sound and correct.
No, you're correct, Member Hilton. You're correct, and that is exactly the point being made by Member Bartlett. So the way we have operated so far is to call on you as little as is possible, with the understanding that this is in fact a momentous occasion. Literally, none of us alive today would have witnessed a new parish coming into effect and witnessed this process of being involved in establishing new constituency boundaries in the circumstances where they were created because of a new parish and nothing else. Normally we'd be here haggling with each other over boundaries for other reasons. So to me it is momentous. And so I would like to, on behalf of the members, on behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you for your time here. If you notice, we were equally efficient in making sure you were not here for long, and we endeavor to do exactly that. When you're coming to the Parliament, if we can get a heads up in terms of a summary report, we will read and come prepared. And if we have any questions to ask as well, we will prepare you as best as possible for the questions that we may have to ask. So your time spent here will be super efficient. Once again, we thank you for your service to country, and thank you for being here today. You may.
Mr. Chair, a member of the committee, we will forever keep the committee updated.
Thank you so much. So, Clark, we will still ask for the summary of the, yes, what you read this morning. Yes, it was a wonderful. Members, while the ECJ goes, is there any other business, any other matter? Will someone move for the, we won't set a meeting date until, will someone move for the adjournment?
Seconded.
House leader is accustomed to a date to be fixed. Seconded by? Member Hilton?
Seconded by Bartlett.
Okay. Oh, moved by Hilton, seconded by Member Bartlett. Members, thank you so much for being here. I believe this was an excellent meeting. I actually learned a lot and garnered a lot of information from it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Revitalization of our urban spaces. So it's really looking at
Together, we can create a safer Jamaica for our children. We need to get the guns and save our country.
Every student attending Heart and Estate Trust under the New Care Initiative will get $15,000 each month to help cover their travel expenses to the Heart School they're attending and get an extra $13,000